Part 30. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 292. Caden excitedly turned the alchemical dagger. The flesh and bones brought wonderful resistance to the alchemical dagger, which made Caden feel that he really succeeded. Among the apostles, the hearts of giants and vampires are the strongest. Giants need to use their huge hearts to send blood to their torsos dozens of meters away. The blood power of the vampires flows in every inch of blood vessels. The hearts of the vampires are very strong. Caden's dagger has a bloodletting groove. When he twists the dagger, blood will spray out like a water gun. The burning power of the alchemical dagger can't even burn the blood into water vapor in time. The blood sprayed Caden, but Caden didn't feel scared, but felt at ease. Killing the dangerous elements of Speaker Quint is nothing more than this. He turned his head and looked at Vice Speaker Claude and Scorpio Wizard on the side. The heart of the Scorpio Wizard is far from that of the vampire. The wizard didn't spray much blood, and the blood was quickly burned dry by the alchemical dagger. There was no more fireball in Rudolph's hand. He looked down in astonishment and saw the tip of the alchemical dagger. The alchemical dagger was facing Rudolph's heart, piercing from the back and out from the front. Anyone who saw it would be sure that Rudolph would die. Rudolph was no longer in the mood to cast witchcraft on the evil god's warehouse. When his witchcraft disappeared, the level 4 evil insects also disappeared. On the ground, Jessica also saw Rudolph with his heart pierced on the side of the airship. She turned around and said to the other priests in the warehouse, "Retreat. Mission completed." When she left at last, Jessica looked at Rudolph more. Cooperating with alchemists is the most dangerous thing. They are so greedy and so unscrupulous. For the sake of purpose and profit, they can trample all morals under their feet. Just now, the Scorpio Wizard Rudolph was fighting with the evil insects on the airship, and the next second, the wizard was dead. It's a pity for that wizard, so young, so lucky and difficult to become a level 4 wizard. Rudolph turned his head slightly, wanting to look behind him, to see Claude who attacked him. Claude's eyes were cold, and he didn't give Rudolph a chance to look at him. He kicked the dagger on Rudolph's back with a flying kick, kicking Rudolph towards Vanya. This kick made the dagger sink deeper into Rudolph's chest. Caden hurriedly let go of the vampire Vanya. Claude's strength was very strong. The wizard's body hit the vampire's body heavily and rolled farther away. In the end, the bodies of the two heretics overlapped, the vampire's body facing up, and the wizard's body facing down. The two alchemical daggers were still burning their flesh and blood, making a sizzling sound. Death was not the final outcome of the two heretics. The wizard would be sent to the stake, and the vampire would be dragged out to be exposed to the sun. By then, Fabreau City would be a carnival again. Caden heaved a sigh of relief. He escaped unharmed. Vice Speaker Claude chose a very good time to act. That wizard still thought he was a member of the police station. It was ridiculous. He was just a monkey in clothes, happily pretending to be a human. Caden immediately turned around and walked towards the messenger. According to the agreement with the tribunal, once the heretic is killed, the tribunal should be notified immediately. Two flares rose into the air on the airship of the police station. On an airship of the tribunal in the distance, Quinn saw the flares and smiled, unable to hide his excitement. "Go forward and dock with the airship of the police station." Caden searched for airships over Fabreau City and found an airship of the tribunal moving towards him, and felt more at ease. The next thing will be handled by the people of the tribunal and Vice Speaker Claude. His mission is over. However, Caden heard and saw Claude's new order, continue to attack the warehouse of the evil god priest. Don't reduce the firepower. Caden hurriedly urged the police to continue to intensify the attack on the fur warehouse. The deputy speaker was still sober. Although killing the heretic was exciting, the plan to destroy the evil god was more important. As the artillery fire continued, Claude's face became more and more ugly. Claude's hand, holding the railing of the ship's side tightly, his knuckles turned white because of excessive force. Even with the influence of charm, his expression was about to lose control. No one understood Claude's anger and pain at this time, because he found that the fur warehouse below was not the main altar at all. Many bodies of sacrifices were blown out of the fur warehouse. The problem was that there were too few iron nails on those bodies. Moreover, there were not many painful priests in the fur warehouse, and there were no sacrificial patterns drawn on the ground. Even the insect nest priest and the white magic priest disappeared. In other words, this fur warehouse was just a bait. Just a bait to capture the Scorpio wizard Rudolph. Claude turned around and looked in the direction of the slaughterhouse behind him. There, the slaughterhouse is the real main altar. The lively fight between the witch hunters and the evil god priests was a superficial disguise, all for the purpose of making the sacrifice go smoothly and clearing the suspicion of the Judgment Bureau. Claude had just made a few moves, and it was obvious that he was out of control. At this time, two witch hunters rushed out of the airship cabin. Both witch hunters were female witch hunters. One of them quickly raised her arm. She held a perfume bottle in her hand and sprayed perfume on Claude's face. In the strong and pungent perfume, Claude's eyes became dull again. Two forces were entangled in his body. One was the charm of the silver snake Abigail, and the other was the curse of the word spirit. The power of charm comes from Abigail. At this time, on the ground, the battle between White Wolf and Abigail is still going on. White Wolf is trying his best to suppress Abigail and relieve Claude's pressure. However, the druid, the pursuer brought by Abigail, has amazing fighting power. The main reason is that the druid has strong defense ability and is familiar with werewolves. Therefore, White Wolf cannot break through the druid's thorn protection in a short time. The curse power of the word spirit comes from the suburbs of Fabreau City. Behind a pile of rocks in the suburbs, Larry is holding a black crystal ball, breathing rapidly, trying his best to control the power of the curse. In this crystal ball, there is a black cloud like rotten cotton wool, which is the characteristic of the curse word spirit. When the word spirit launches the curse, it cannot move. At this time, it is MRS Leslie and MRS Jessica who provide protection for Larry. Seeing Larry casting the curse, MRS Leslie was a little nervous. She couldn't help but ask MRS Jessica beside her, "I wonder if the curse can help Claude get rid of the charm." It should be possible. Jessica knew more about the power of charm. Larry divined the best time tonight, which is the moment when Claude is least affected by the power of charm. The curse of the level 4 word spirit can greatly affect the state of the cursed person. This is a means of fighting poison with poison, and it is also the only means that can affect Claude now. It's a pity that Abigail is watching Claude too closely, otherwise if living cells can be obtained, the curse will be more effective. Living cells, MRS Leslie was a little puzzled. Don't cells die immediately after leaving the body? Some men's cells are very wonderful and can survive for a long time after leaving the body. MRS Leslie instantly thought of what it was. She curled her lips. The silver snakes are all sluts. They are indeed no match for them in this regard. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 293. The trial airship slowly approached the police station's airship. Quinn stood on the deck, looking at the police station's airship excitedly. A witch hunter walked up to him and said, "Director, Ms. Abigail is still on the ground. She is haunted by a heretic." Quinn looked down at the ground. Among the streets on the ground, the White Wolf was fighting the druid. Druid Quinn knew that it was a certain suitor that Abigail accepted on the way here. This follower's time was almost up and he had to use it as soon as possible. He also knew that the White Wolf was an accomplice of the vampire Vanya. He took a second look and saw that the battlefield between White Wolf and Druid was getting further and further away, already some distance away from the fur warehouse. This is in the city. The White Wolves seemed to be afraid of hurting the surrounding residents, so they are timid in attacking, so their fighting intensity is not high. Send someone to support Abigail. The witch hunter asked, should we wait until Captain Abigail comes back before we pick up the ship? After thinking for a while, Quinn shook his head. The scene was not suitable for Abigail. The two airships intersected, and a witch hunter came to the police station's airship. Director Quinn, please come over and take the bodies of the vampires and wizards with you. Caden looked at Deputy Speaker Claude and found that Deputy Speaker Claude had no objection. He looked at the two witch hunters standing next to Claude and hesitated. This situation was not in the plan. Those two witch hunters sprayed something on the Deputy Speaker, and it didn't look like a good thing at first glance. Let's make arrangements, Caden. Let's go see Director Quinn first. Caden then arranged for someone to dispose of the bodies of the two heretics. The vampire Vanya, the murderer of Chancellor Quint, is already dead and cannot die anymore. The wizard Rudolph, Vanya's accomplice, was killed by Deputy Speaker Claude, who personally cleared himself of suspicion. The bodies of the two heretics were carried on stretchers and carried to the airship of the tribunal. After arriving on the airship of the tribunal, witch hunters immediately came to check whether the two heretics were dead. Claude glanced at Rudolph one more time, and his eyes immediately turned to the slaughterhouse. In the slaughterhouse, there are also real rituals of the evil god. The witch hunter first checked Rudolph's pulse. After waiting for a long time, there was no heartbeat. The witch hunter checked Rudolph's pupils again, and they were dilated. At this time, the only witchcraft weapon on the wizard's body was a walking stick, and the other witchcraft weapons were unknown where they were. The wizard's witchcraft was taken away and sent to the cabin, where it was kept safe as a seizure. The witch hunter went to check on Vanya again and found that Vanya was also completely dead. The witch hunter walked up behind Quinn and said, "The two heretics are dead. There may be a famous spirit in Vanya's gang, but what about the famous spirit? No trace of him has been found so far." "No." Quinn looked back at Claude with a cold look, but did not speak to Claude. Claude didn't ask any questions and just looked in the direction of the slaughterhouse. The slaughterhouse is far away from here, and there are witch hunters and evil priests still fighting there. I just don't know how real or fake the battle is. Quinn waved his hand, and the witch hunter behind him hurriedly walked into the cabin. A dozen witch hunters carried out a huge box. There are alchemical arrays on the boxes, which are used for shielding and sealing. Caden knew those alchemy formations. Metal lines filled with alchemical power were embedded in special boxes to seal the contents and shield the atmosphere inside. This kind of formation was a unique sealing formation for alchemists. If Caden read it correctly, this level of seal is generally used to seal level 5 and above witchcraft. A level 5 witchcraft weapon. This was the first time he had seen a level 5 witchcraft weapon. Level 5 wizards, also known as Southern wizards. The witchcraft created by the Nantian wizard is not only more powerful, but also has great side effects. Except for wizards, other apostles cannot hold level 5 Nantian witchcraft for a long time. They will soon be eroded by the side effects and turn into beasts that only know killing like wizards. This box is 2 meters wide and 2 meters long, almost as tall as a person. I don't know what kind of witchcraft such a large witchcraft is. The box was carried to the center of the airship deck, and the witch hunter began to open the seal of the box. The alchemist inputs alchemical power into the sealing array. The metal of the sealing array is copper wire. Under a large amount of alchemical power, the temperature of the copper wire begins to increase, then slowly turns red, and finally melts, and the copper liquid leaves. The groove of the magic circle flows downward. The sealing circle was destroyed, and Caden heard faint crying sounds inside. After the box was completely opened, several witch hunters pulled out a round copper cup with a height of 1 meter from the box. This copper cup is like a drinking vessel for a giant, with earrings on the sides and a base below. There was no water or wine in the copper cup, but there was a spiraling grey mist. This mist covered the bottom of the cup, and from within this mist came low and distant cries, as if this giant wine cup had no bottom. Director, Nantian Juju is ready. Caden swallowed. Nantian Juju, this witchcraft is very important in the upper class society. I didn't expect to see this precious witchcraft here. The Great Lord is one of the 47 constellations in the southern sky. In ancient mythology, in order to kill King Peleus, Medea deceived the king's 3 daughters, saying that her giant wine, which was a huge wine cup, could make people rejuvenate and even resurrect people from the dead. Medea demonstrated to the 3 daughters of Peleus on the spot. An old sheep was boiled in the giant jar. The old sheep disappeared and a lamb came out of the giant jar. The 3 daughters of Peleus believed it. They wanted their father to be rejuvenated and become a young king. While Peleus was sleeping, his 3 daughters threw Peleus into the giant jar. However, what made the 3 daughters cry was that their father was boiled in the giant jar and they were deceived by Medea. The giant jar in this myth later became the giant jar, one of the southern constellations. Caden had heard about the side effects of this magic weapon. After holding or using it for a long time, you will hear the resentment of your dead relatives. This resentment can even torture people crazy. This is why this magic weapon is sealed. Quinn walked to the southern giant jar and took out a cloth bag. In the cloth bag was a strand of hair from his father, Quint. Holding his father's hair, Quinn was not calm. He said, "Bring up the 3 criminals." The witch hunter brought up 3 criminals from the cabin. The 3 criminals were carried on the shoulders of the witch hunters. The height was suitable, and it was very convenient to throw the criminals into the giant jar. No one cared who these 3 criminals were, and no one cared whether these 3 criminals were real criminals. The 3 criminals were blindfolded and asked in a daze on the shoulders of the witch hunters, "Where are we? Who are you? What are you going to do?" Quinn saw the 3 criminals in place and began to drive the witch weapon. He first threw his father Quint's hair into the giant jar, then he hung his arm above the giant jar, cut his arm with a dagger, and let his blood flow into the giant jar. After that, the witch hunter threw the 3 criminals into the giant jar with force. The 3 criminals obviously realized that their situation was very bad, and the sudden weightlessness made them scream one by one. They fell into the giant jar and fell into the spiral grey mist. For some unknown reason, the bodies of the 3 people melted quickly, but their cries and shouts could still be heard from the mist, but the sound became smaller and smaller, and finally became the same as the previous cry in the giant jar. Quinn was on the side, pressing his hand on the edge of the giant jar, and desperately pouring alchemical power into it. It was very difficult for a level 4 alchemist to drive a level 5 magic weapon, but his eyes were full of determination. He must let his father come back and take a look at this Fabro city, even if it was only for one night. When everyone was staring at the giant jar, they saw a person slowly standing up in the giant jar. People who were familiar with Speaker Quint had already recognized that the old man who appeared in the giant jar was Quint. Caden was a little excited. Is this the ability of the level 5 magic weapon, the Nantian Giant Jew? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 294. Naked Quint turned his back to everyone, and Quinn noticed Quint's old body. There were almost no muscles on his body, and all the flesh was drooping. Quinn had been in Vichy for many years, and he had never realized that his father was so old as he did at this moment. Quint looked around and found himself in a giant jar. He immediately realized something. The witch weapon of the county court, the Nantian Giant Jew. This feeling is really wonderful. In the last second, I was killed by a blood, and in the next second, I stood up from the giant jar. A witch hunter gave Quint a cloak and covered his body. The witch hunter helped Quint out of the giant jar. The witch hunter was cautious, fearing that he would lose his balance and fall into the giant jar, and then there would be no bones left, only a cry. Quint looked at Quinn, who was walking towards him, and his face looked much better. "My son, I didn't expect to see you." Quinn and Quint hugged each other. "Tonight, it belongs to us, father and son." What the father and son didn't make clear was that the resurrection of the southern giant could only last for one night. When the sun rose, the father and son would say goodbye again. Quint looked at his proudest son with satisfaction. This son sat in a high position and had a promising future. "Father, let me show you a gift first." Quint signaled the witch hunter to drag the vampire Vanya over. "Father, this is the murderer who killed you. He is dead now. There are his accomplices over there, a wizard, they are all dead." Quint looked in the direction of the wizard, but saw Claude first, which made Quint frown. "It doesn't matter, father, he has been controlled by Abigail." Quint thought of that woman, Abigail. "She is not worthy of marrying you, I don't like her." A silver snake, but delusionally wanting to become Mrs. Quinn, is simply ridiculous. The director of the Vichy County Trial Office cannot find a silver snake as his official wife. "I understand. She is still on the ground and has not left the battle. I will not let her appear in front of you." An old-fashioned gentleman like Quint does not like Meng Lang's silver snake. This is inevitable, so Quinn is not going to make his father unhappy tonight. Even if Abigail defeats the White Wolf, he will not take her to the airship. Looking at Claude again, Quint did not ask what the current situation in Fabreau City is. He turned his head to look at the area where the battle was still going on and observed the situation. Quinn explained to him on the side, "Father, what I can do is to help you fulfill your last wish. Complete the last shortboard of the Ruhr mining area and complete the plan you made before your death." Quint knew that after he died, the evil god's sacrifice would definitely fail. Now it is his son who will do justice for him and complete the last step of the plan. "Very good, this is very good." Quint's expression was a little sad and a little relieved. He died after all. Death is inevitable. Even if you use the power of some apostles to resurrect, it is only temporary and the damage is great. Quint raised Quint's arm, and there was a long wound on his arm that had begun to decay. This is the side effect of the magic weapon of the southern sky giant. Quinn needs to pay a lot of price to recover, and in the next period of time, he will continue to hear the muttering of his dead relatives, which must be very torturous. Even if there are side effects, Quinn must do this personally. If a witch hunter is assigned at will, the subsequent compensation for work is easy to say, but Quint's resurrection will not be as perfect as it is now. Claude's pupils have been trembling, that is the crazy confrontation between the charm and curse power in his body, but he can't get rid of the charm now. Abigail presets the purpose of his behavior for him, such as attracting the wizard Rudolph to appear, and taking the opportunity to sneak attack Rudolph. After that, he obeyed Quinn's orders. Quinn had no new orders, so he could only stand there. Two witch hunters have been standing beside him. Every once in a while, they would spray perfume next to Claude's nose to prevent Abigail's ability from unexpectedly happening. The battle in the distance gradually weakened, and many places had become quiet, without the flames of battle. It's almost over, and the sacrifice is about to begin. The two witch hunters brought 3 people to the deck again. These 3 people are ordinary people in the Dordo district, and they will be able to verify the results of the sacrifice soon. At a certain moment, a deep roar that resounded through the world suddenly came from the slaughterhouse. This roar was full of endless pain. The slaughterhouse was surrounded by dust because of this roar, covering the entire slaughterhouse. The dust was getting higher and higher, covering the slaughterhouse like a hemisphere 100 meters high. The roar was so penetrating that everyone in Fabreau City heard it. In the council hall, Colonel Gayton stood by the window, looking out the window in silence. He is a soldier and will not say much about the decision of the parliament. The most important and the first military discipline of the Constitutional Army is that the Constitutional Army is the army of the Alchemy Parliament, and the Constitutional Army absolutely obeys the resolution of the Alchemy Parliament. Regarding these things in Fabreau City, Gaetan will not express any opinions. However, he is in a bad mood. Abel looked at Gaetan by the window. He didn't know when Gaetan started to talk to him very little. He asked one question and Gaetan answered one question. Tonight, Colonel Gaetan took the initiative to speak for the first time recently. Abel, is the sacrifice of the evil god about to be completed? It should be. Abel put away the documents on the table. Let's go, we should also act. There should be no unrest in a while. The final blow is more critical. Gaetan went to the airship of the Constitutional Army to arrange the task for tonight. After the evil god descends, the situation may get out of control. The Constitutional Army must prepare in advance. The painful roar reached the sky, and dark clouds appeared in the night sky. The dark clouds at night were as black as ink, covering the moon. In the hemispherical dust above the slaughterhouse, something slowly pushed open, and a tumor rose up. The diameter of this tumor is nearly 50 meters. Looking closely, the tumor is actually composed of individuals, but these people are incomplete. I don't know what kind of torture they have suffered. They are stuck to the surface of the tumor and wail in pain. The despair visible to the naked eye makes everyone who sees the tumor feel palpitations. Imagine that you are surrounded by people who have been tortured. You are stuck or sewn together by something unknown, suspended in the air, listening to the painful cries of people around you, and you have no idea why such a disaster has befallen you. Under the tumor, there are 4 tentacles swaying slowly, and the tentacles are also made up of people who have been tortured. These are all living people. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 295. Pieces of meat fell from the sarcoma and tentacles, and when they hit the ground, they made an unpleasant crackling sound. All the pain priests were kneeling on the ground, excitedly looking up at the sarcoma in the sky. Suddenly, tiny slits opened in the sarcoma, separating like the eyelids of an eye. From the separated cracks, huge eyeballs appeared. Large and small, there may be a dozen or more than 20. These eyeballs are looking at the Dordo district, in all directions, with no blind spots. At this moment, all the apostles felt the fear deep in their hearts. This is the painful gaze of the evil god. This is the instinctive fear of ants in front of advanced life forms. On the airship of the judgment office, if the apostle was just afraid, then the 3 ordinary people on the ground were already like crazy, lying limply, with their bodies twisted weirdly out of fear, their heads tilted back, and their 2 shoulders facing forward. Their fronts were almost touching, they were bent backwards, and their legs were strangely pulled in 2 directions. If these 3 people are like this, then all ordinary people in Dordo district should be similar. Every once in a while, the witch hunter would spray Claude with Abigail's special perfume, so Claude could not move. However, at a certain moment, the corners of Claude's eyes became wet. Why does it have to be this way? Why do you have to do this to these people? Are those ores so important? The sarcoma suddenly started to move, and the weird living sutured sarcoma began to rotate, and the eyeballs that represented the gaze of the evil god began to glance back and forth. The entire Dordo district was trembling under the evil god's glance, and the cries one after another had reached the airship. "Father, it's almost over," Quinn happily said to Quint beside him. The cruel evil god created a sacrifice, and the tribunal tried its best, but was unable to do anything. It could only work on the ruins of the sacrifice to make up for the wounds left by the sacrifice in the Dordo district. This is your unfinished plan, and now you are finally seeing the results. As the sarcoma rotates, the 4 tentacles also begin to rotate. As the tentacle rotated, the huge iron nail at the end of the tentacle emerged from the dust cover above the slaughterhouse. The tentacles were slowly raised, and the iron nails at the ends of the tentacles were not for attacking anything, but for piercing the eyeballs above the sarcoma. Even though they were so far apart, the sight of the iron nails piercing into the eyeballs made people grit their teeth. There was a clanking sound on the deck, and the witch hunters dropped daggers and nails on the ground. 3 ordinary people suddenly rushed towards the sharp weapons like crazy, and then stabbed their bodies with the sharp weapons one by one. One person cut off his fingers with a dagger, another person inserted an iron nail into his thigh, and another person used the saw teeth on the back of the dagger to cut his arm back and forth. Claude couldn't bear to look any more and closed his eyes. I don't know what the scene is like in the Dordo area on the ground. I don't know how long it took, and I don't know how long I listened to the wailing from far or near. At a certain moment, it seemed that everyone was tired of crying, and it seemed that all the sounds had faded away. On the airship, among the 3 ordinary people, one became the servant of the god of pain, while the other 2 did not, but left a pool of blood. The door of the airship cabin opened again, and the vampire Hera walked out of it. She carefully walked towards the 2 ordinary people who were not in pain and collected their blood samples. At the same time, many blood servants entered the Dordo district, and they began to collect blood samples as requested by Hera. After Hera collected the blood samples, she retreated without saying a word. Hera, the proud and gorgeous high priest back then, was now silent and cautious. On the airship, the man who became the servant of the god of pain stood up, holding the iron nail in his hand. Without any warning, the man suddenly turned around and rushed towards Claude. The witch hunter beside Claude sprayed Claude with a strong perfume again. The iron nail of the servant of the god pierced the immobile Claude's body hard. On the night of the sacrifice, the deputy speaker was unfortunately attacked by the priest of pain and sacrificed his life heroically for the city of Fabro. Quinn's voice sounded. Father, in addition to the vampire Vanya, the person who killed you was also the wizard Rudolph, and these 2 people are from Lehmantown. Claude, the sheriff of Lehmantown, has a close relationship with these 2 people. Quint looked back at Claude and said, Lehmantown is really an evil place. Everyone who comes out of there looks like a thorn in the head. On the Constitutional Army's airship, Colonel Guyton handed the binoculars to Abel. Abel took the telescope and saw an iron nail stuck in Claude's shoulder. Wait a minute, slow down, we'll go there later. Abel actually asked Guyton to slow down at this time. If he didn't face Claude's death, he wouldn't be responsible for Claude's death. Guyton guessed that Abel thought so. An iron nail cannot kill Claude, but this iron nail is extraordinary. This iron nail is part of the agreement between the Inquisition office and the evil god priest. When the iron nail was inserted into Claude's shoulder, Claude instantly felt pain everywhere in his body. In this unbearable sting, Claude's vision seemed to have passed through a lot of fog and came to an endless mud. In the middle of the mud, a naked man sat. This man had iron nails inserted into his body. As he breathed, the iron nails rubbed against the undulating flesh, and streams of blood flowed out. In Claude's flesh and blood, iron thorn balls appeared one after another. These iron thorn balls were like sea urchins, and the iron thorns stabbed around and deeply into his flesh and blood. 4 or 5 iron thorn balls appeared on his face, making his face look like hard black hair. The thorn balls all over his body destroyed Claude's muscles, and he slowly fell to the ground. The moment he fell, his body collided with the deck, causing the iron thorn balls to tremble in his flesh and blood, increasing the pain. Let him die slowly in pain. Quinn was very satisfied with this result. Although the priest of pain kills slowly, the pain he causes people is satisfying. The silver snake witch hunter covered the bottle of perfume, and her mission was over. Claude lay on the ground, facing Rudolph and Vanya. The iron thorns even pierced his left eye, making it difficult for him to see clearly. There were also iron thorn balls in Claude's palm. He felt the texture of the metal and held the last bit of hope in the pain. Rudolph, you've waited long enough. Is this your only chance? The tumor in the distance collapsed and turned into corpses, falling to the ground. The thornball in Claude's body, the power of the evil god, disappeared. Rudolph, who was lying on the ground in the distance, no longer had his pupils dilated, and suddenly returned to their original state. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 296. It was a busy night. The evil gods gathered at the slaughterhouse and couldn't wait to hold the foundation ceremony of the pantheon. Pain, insect nest, white devil, abstinence, distress, annihilation, war. A group of chief priests gathered in front of the pile of corpses in the slaughterhouse and began to pray to their respective evil gods. The blood servants shuttled through the streets and alleys, collecting blood samples. Only a little blood was taken from each person, and each of the scattered blood servants only collected blood from dozens of people. When the blood samples were collected, they would also be tested for poison to prevent anyone from ruining the next blood fog night. Quint and Quinn stood at the side of the ship, admiring the busy scenes in various places in the Dordo district. However, in a place where no one noticed, Rudolph's pupils were no longer dilated. The dilated pupils before were disguised by the fourth-level sensing wolf pupils. His heartbeat did not disappear. When the witch hunter came to check, he controlled his heartbeat with the heartbeat earplug hidden deep in his ears, making the witch hunter mistakenly think that he had no heartbeat. The chaotic accumulation of magic weapons gave Rudolph many tricks, and at least he could simulate a perfect death. More importantly, it was the alchemical dagger stuck in his heart. This was a big bet between Rudolph and Claude. At the moment when the alchemical dagger was inserted into Rudolph's back, Larry in the suburbs also cast a strong curse on Claude according to the divination. If the charm power in Claude's body overwhelmed the curse power at that moment, Rudolph would be dead. However, both Rudolph and Claude won the bet. Claude was extremely nervous at the moment he stabbed Rudolph's back. His strong willpower and the curse power allowed him to regain control of his body for a short time. The alchemical dagger that stabbed into Rudolph's body was a special dagger prepared by Mrs. Jessica. The dagger looked like a hole, but it was actually a dozen pieces, which were connected together by magnetic control to look like a complete dagger. When the alchemical dagger pierced into Rudolph's back, the dagger had split into more than a dozen pieces under the control of Claude's electromagnetic watch, and the fragments successfully avoided Rudolph's heart. The tip of the dagger was also controlled by Claude's electromagnetic watch and pierced from the chest in front of the heart. From beginning to end, Rudolph's heart was well protected and not pierced. As for not much blood flowing out, this is the characteristic of the alchemical dagger. The burning power will quickly burn the wound to death. Quinn did not let Claude go. At this time, Claude had just been stared at by the evil god in pain, and it seemed that he could only wait to die. And Vanya also opened his eyes. The heart was pierced. It can't be said that there was no effect on Vanya, but it can only be said that the effect was not great. Rudolph, who woke up, suddenly made a move. He first threw 2 batteries in the direction of Claude. These 2 batteries were not witch weapons, so the witch hunter did not take them. Claude's promotion is only 1 step away. There is a huge difference between a real level 4 alchemist and an alchemist with a level 4 magic weapon. I hope he can complete this last step. Quinn was looking down and suddenly felt that there seemed to be something shining behind him. When he turned his head slightly, he saw a dazzling and burning purple light. Purple fireball, the magic of the Scorpio wizard. The attack of the level 4 wizard, except Quint and Quinn, no one on the entire airship could stop it. Be careful. It was Quint who reacted first. In fact, Quint was acting with Quinn. He was dead and had no interest in the things in the Dordo district and the city of Fabreau. It was nothing more than his son felt that he still had regrets, so he resurrected him and completed his unfinished business for him. The reason why Quint seemed to be watching the fall of the Dordo district with relish was just to cooperate with Quinn and satisfy Quinn's filial piety. At this time, an attack suddenly appeared behind him. Quint's mind was not on the sacrifice on the ground at all, so he reacted faster than Quinn. He turned around first and stood in front of Quinn. On the small airship, dozens of purple fireballs shot out in all directions. This made the airship look like a purple gold flower, full of dangerous fireworks. The Silver Snake witch hunter who controlled Claude, and other witch hunters, each received at least 2 purple fireballs. And Quinn, they were hit by a complete purple fireball spell from Rudolph. The airship was not spacious, and 16 purple fireballs instantly rushed towards the 2 of them in a state of swallowing some. Quinn suddenly squatted down and pressed his hands on the ground. The wooden deck of the airship emitted a red light and instantly turned into an explosive. A violent explosion set off in front of Quint, trying to blow up the purple fireball. But when he really used his ability, he was shocked to find that the body created by the level 5 Tianese giant was still far from his original body. The explosion was much smaller than expected. Before being engulfed by the flames, Quint had to make the wooden board under his feet into an explosive. Protecting Quinn was his only wish at this time. The wooden board under his feet also exploded, successfully blocking the wizard's purple fireball. When the flames and explosions ended, 1/3 of the ship's side was blown up by Quint, and the blown-up hull fell down. Quinn hugged Quint, whose legs had completely disappeared, and at the critical moment, he flew to the deck at the bow that was still intact. Although he knew that the father in front of him was not his real father, Quinn was so furious at this moment. He looked up in the direction of the wizard, but saw that the wizard was standing next to Claude. Vanya had disappeared in the cabin, and Rudolph's cane had just been taken away by the witch hunter. At this time, Vanya was already killing madly in the cabin below. The cabin was full of bat incarnations, and Vanya's arms appeared and disappeared, piercing the hearts of witch hunters from time to time. Occasionally, Vanya's head would appear behind the neck of a witch hunter, and he would open his scarlet mouth, bite the witch hunter's neck with his fangs, and bite the witch hunter to death. He even had time to take away the witch hunter's relics. In a short period of time, Vanya collected several relics that he had never obtained before. At least the alchemist's relics from level 1 to level 3 were quickly collected. In Rudolph's star map, not only the remaining 3 stars of Cancer were lit up, but the progress of Leo also reached 2/9. From the Cancer star field, a beam of light descended, and at the end of the beam was a light cocoon composed of starlight. The light cocoon was empty, and Rudolph's third forbidden puppet was already vacant and would soon welcome residents. The magic wand contained Rudolph's star power. Vanya knew the location of Rudolph's magic weapon and had been walking towards that cabin firmly. The witch hunter in front of the cabin was instantly killed by the blood tangent. This cabin was where the county court used to store spoils. Soon, Vanya came out of the cabin again, holding Rudolph's cane in his hand. The blood tangent turned into a spiral shape, and took Vanya through several floors. He appeared beside Rudolph and handed him the cane. At this time, Rudolph had taken out the alchemical dagger from his chest. Quinn glared at Rudolph's heart. The alchemical dagger was broken. Claude, the vicious fool, deceived him. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 297. Purple represents poison, bad luck, and unexpected events in the plan. When Abel saw the purple fire light on the police airship, he suddenly felt panic. Quick! Go and see what happened. Gaten turned around and ordered the lieutenant to speed up the silver flame. When Abel's student Claude was killed, Abel asked to slow down and didn't want to face it directly. Now that Quinn is in danger, it's different. On the airship of the Judgment Bureau, a witchcraft almost flattened the deck. If Quinn is really in danger of his life, then the agreement between Abel and the deputy speaker of the county council, Obed, will be invalid. The attack on the deck affected the airship. According to the combat regulations, the airship of the Judgment Bureau began to lower its altitude to avoid crashing. Rudolph didn't care about the agreement between Abel and Obed. After getting the cane, Rudolph felt that everything was back. He was suppressed for so long and had to pretend to be dead. He was so depressed. Vanya's body exploded again, turning into bats and disappearing beside Rudolph. Rudolph released purple fireballs with his left hand and pointed at Quinn with his cane in his right hand. Some of the purple fireballs attacked Quinn, while others blasted at the witch hunters who were not yet dead. The diameter of the purple fireball was only 1.5 meters, and it was very difficult to avoid it in this narrow airship. When the wolf blade breath with a diameter of 5 meters appeared, Rudolph didn't even know where Quinn should hide, and behind him was Quint, who had lost his legs. However, what surprised Rudolph was that Quinn actually took out a mirror. It was unknown what material this mirror was made of. When the wolf blade breath approached the mirror, it was actually sucked in. The mirror was like a bottomless pit. The wolf blade breath that could crush steel did not make any achievements and disappeared without a trace, only stirring up some air turbulence in front of Quinn. That was the ability of the Annihilation Priest. The county trial office was very powerful. When it was eradicating heretics, it could obtain many relics. If there was another wizard serving the county trial office, they could obtain many magic weapons. The provincial court is even more powerful. The court will also give many magic weapons to the lower courts to make them stronger. For example, the level 5 Nantian Juju is a very powerful magic weapon. Rudolph tried to attack Quinn with the witchcraft purple fireball, but found that the purple fireball was also absorbed by Quinn's Mingjing magic weapon. As for the poisonous smoke produced by the purple fireball, it can be used against other people, but it has no effect on the prepared director of the county court. Quinn must have been prepared and carried a magic weapon or plague medium potion that is immune to toxins. No apostle ability is absolutely unsolvable, and there will always be a restraint on this ability. Rudolph's poison is only suitable for sneak attacks. If you are prepared, it is easy to be targeted by the plague medium. Rudolph frowned deeply and began to think about how to deal with it. At this time, Rudolph suddenly noticed that Vanya's blood tangent attack was not blocked by Quinn with the magic weapon Mingjing. He chose to dodge and chose to use the vest he was wearing to resist the blood tangent. Obviously, Quinn's vest is also a magic weapon. Physical attack, Quinn's magic weapon, the mirror, is afraid of physical attack. It's really annoying. Rudolph is obviously the wizard, but Quinn is like Tuobeo Boy, with magic weapons all over his body. Rudolph's space wallet was handed over to Larry in advance, because he knew that when he pretended to be dead, the magic weapons might be confiscated by the witch hunters, so he only had the cane in his hand at this time. As for Quinn's counterattack, like his father Quint, it was mainly based on explosives. After several rounds, the entire deck had been blown to pieces. Quinn still stood in front of Quint, who had lost his legs, protecting this father who could only exist for one night. The battle became Rudolph's auxiliary, and Vanya's main attack. Rudolph's peripheral vision swept over many airships that were approaching, especially the conspicuous silver flame, which made Rudolph's scalp numb. He and Vanya both accelerated their movements, just wanting to end the battle as soon as possible. At this moment, Rudolph's peripheral vision suddenly saw something glowing in the gap of the deck under his feet. The surviving witch hunters in the cabin began to fight back. From the dim light, it looked more like the alchemical array that had just sealed the southern sky giant. This was Rudolph's first time fighting against the alchemical array, and the sealing and shielding effects of this array were very good. The alchemist's sealing array is one of the powerful means for witch hunters to deal with heretics, allowing low-level witch hunters to use the power of the array to compete with high-level heretics. With the reminder of the danger intuition between his eyebrows, Rudolph felt a strong sense of crisis. For wizards, this array can temporarily isolate the connection between wizards and constellations, stopping the operation of witchcraft and magic tools. This is also the reason why many heretics dare not directly attack the alchemist airship. The light of the array under the deck became brighter and brighter, and Quinn had a contemptuous smile on his face. He had a lot of ways, and he reached deep into his arms, ready to take out the prepared tricks. At this critical moment, Rudolph did not attack Quinn or the alchemy array in the airship, but rushed towards the southern sky giant. This magic weapon is so huge, with a diameter of nearly 2 meters and a height of more than 1 meter. The magic weapon made of pure copper is very heavy. The situation just changed suddenly and the battle was fierce. The witch hunter did not have time to deal with this huge magic weapon. Rudolph's hand was on the southern sky giant. Quinn seemed to have forgotten that Rudolph was the only wizard on this airship. The southern sky giant has the strange ability to temporarily rejuvenate and resurrect. With this ability, Rudolph immediately thought of the rebirth, growth, and other abilities related to Aries. Aries is the end of the old year and the beginning of the new year. It controls the power of new life. Infused with a large amount of Aries star power, Rudolph briefly controlled this level 5 witchcraft. At this moment, countless whispers suddenly poured into Rudolph's mind. These babbles are not the babbles brought to Rudolph by the moon in the star chart, but the side effects of the Nantian juju, the calls and whispers of close relatives. This is Rudolph's method of hurting both sides, activating the Nantian juju, causing the side effects to attack Rudolph and Quinn, and attacking Quinn in turn. Rudolph didn't know what the whispers of his loved ones that Quinn heard were, and Rudolph fell into a trance at this moment. "Brother, I am unemployed at the end of the year. Please help me find a good job in March." Rudolph had a younger brother in his previous life. He must have died in his previous life. I don't know why I heard the whispers of my younger brother here. "Son, after you brush your teeth, you always knock the toothbrush against the toothbrush to knock off the water on the toothbrush. You can't hear that sound now. I don't know how to live without you. I miss you so much, son." This was his mother's voice. Rudolph could not suppress the tears streaming down his face. "Son, I made a lot of money this year. If you were here, I would give you a lot." This was his father's voice. Rudolph's tears fell on his collar, it was so cold. "Suddenly I miss them so much and hope they are doing well." Quinn's eyes were also red, and his hands were trembling as he tried to pull out an alchemical weapon but couldn't. In the eyes of heretics, Quinn is a demonic hunter, but judging from his attitude towards Quint, he is a person who cherishes his family, so he is easily influenced by the Nantian juju. At this moment, Quint suddenly sat upright from the ground and shouted with fear. "No!" Black iron thorns pierced Quinn's body at extremely fast speeds. Quinn was attacked by the side effects of the Nantian juju and didn't even have the slightest reaction. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 298. These iron spikes were so hidden that they flew along the uneven deck at first. When they reached Quinn, they suddenly rose in height and stabbed Quinn from bottom to top. Claude propped up his body with one elbow, and his other hand was facing Quinn. "Oh my God, I should be the first one to complete the promotion of alchemist with the iron spikes of the evil god's pain." Rudolph just threw 2 batteries to Claude, and Claude also completed the unfinished promotion in the blacksmith shop. Using the iron spikes left by the evil god's pain in the body as raw materials, he completed the last step of the electromagnetic experiment. His ability is similar to the level 4 wizard magnetic control watch given to him by Abigail, which also controls the electromagnetic ability of metal by adding magnetism to metal. One by one, the sea urchin-like thorn balls were attached with alchemical magnetism. These thorn balls were controlled by Claude and slowly squeezed out of the body. These thorn balls after leaving the body split into iron spikes and became Claude's weapons. "Rudolph, you're taking so long to solve Quinn, this isn't your style. Listening to Claude's familiar unreliable tone, Rudolph raised his hand and wiped away the tears on his face. "Claude, how about solving the alchemy array below first?" The conversation between the two was interrupted by Quint's second cry of pain. "No." Quint's pain at this moment was beyond description. He watched his son's back pierce with black iron spikes. The location of these iron spikes was at the heart of his left chest. Quint's chest was rising and falling less and less, and his life was fading away quickly. Reminded by Quint's voice, Claude and Rudolph attacked at the same time. "Stop." The silver flame was moving very fast, and it was unknown when it was so close to the Judgment Bureau airship. At this time, the Judgment Bureau airship was only 100 meters above the ground and was about to land. No matter who came, it was useless. Even if Claude heard that it was Teacher Abel who asked him to stop, he would not stop. One after another, black iron spikes shot out and pierced Quint's head, chest, and abdomen. Rudolph waved his cane, and the wolf blade breath shot out behind the iron nails. Quint watched helplessly as the back of Quint's head, Quint's neck, and Quint's back were pierced with iron spikes again. The wolf blade breath that followed also hit Quint's body. In a flash, Quint's body below the neck was shattered by the breath. This time Rudolph created a small-scale breath, just enough to cover Quint's body. The minced meat flew behind Quint, and Quint watched a head fall on the spot and hit the wooden deck with a thud. When Claude stood up, he had already controlled the situation instantly. The iron spikes flew, and suddenly several iron spikes flew into the air like black lines and quickly stabbed under the deck. 10 seconds later, Claude had destroyed the alchemy array under the airship. The light of the alchemy array disappeared, and the broken deck was dark. Rudolph breathed a sigh of relief. After Claude successfully promoted, everything became easy. However, Claude's appearance was still extremely miserable, with blood holes all over his body, and blood soaked his clothes. "Rudolph, can you give me some wolfsbane potion?" Rudolph habitually reached into his clothes, but did not touch his space wallet. "I don't have wolfsbane potion either. I'll ask Vanya to look for it and see if there is any in the cabin below." At this time, Director Caden, who was huddled in a corner, suddenly jumped up. "I have it. I have wolfsbane potion." Wolfsbane potion, a level 1 potion, is very practical. Both druids and wizards can make it. It is a necessary healing potion for many apostles. Caden quickly came to feed Claude the wolfsbane potion, and the terrible wound on Claude's body recovered rapidly. Oh, it would be great if there was a bowl of hot mushroom soup at this time. The recovery of the wound made Claude itchy all over, and he even moaned comfortably. "Hot mushroom soup? I didn't prepare that." Faced with Claude's outrageous request, Caden really couldn't satisfy him. Caden helped Claude sit up straight, and he couldn't help but look in the direction of Scorpio Wizard Rudolph. Now he was a little confused. Deputy Speaker Claude and 2 heretics joined forces to kill the director of the county trial office, Quinn. The crying sound at this time made Caden confirm that this was true. My son, my son. Quinn. Quinn." Quint's upper body was lying on Quinn's head, his shoulders rose and fell violently, and he wanted to hold Quinn's head with both hands but didn't know how to start. I don't know what means the hateful wizard used just now, but he made Quinn lose his resistance at that moment, and then he was attacked by the traitor Claude. Yes, traitor. In Quint's view, Claude was a traitor who betrayed the Parliament and betrayed the alchemist. Rudolph stood in front of Quint, his voice calm. "I was a little careless in killing you last time, and I always felt that it was not good enough. Now I feel much better. You died too quickly, and you didn't feel much pain. What were the lines of those painful priests? Feel the pain and seek redemption in the pain. Quint, watching your son die in front of you, this is what you deserve. For those miserable ordinary people in Fabreau City, this is the way you deserve to die." Quint has gone crazy, he is completely crazy, with tears on his face. Vanya took action and killed Quint for the second time. The iron bat wings passed like a blade and cut Quint's throat. Quint died, but his body was divided into 3 parts. The facial features on his head changed, turning into one of the criminals who had been thrown into the juja before. His body was also split into 3 pieces, the head was 1 piece, the shoulders were 1 piece, and the abdominal cavity was 1 piece. The sizes of these 3 pieces didn't match up. I don't know how Nantian Juja put these 3 people together. Quint's resurrection is a tragedy. He no longer cares about the future of Fabreau City. The success of the sacrifice he saw means nothing to him. However, he witnessed the death of his son. What kind of torture this is, but it seems nothing compared to the pain suffered by people in Rondo, Bayer, and Dordo districts. They deserved it, and Rudolph had no sympathy for the father and son. Caden, who was not far away, was so frightened that his body trembled, and his head and shoulders shrank back. He felt that tonight was so magical. Caden lowered his head and whispered in Claude's ear, "Deputy Speaker, Director Quinn is dead, what should we do now?" "It's okay, I'll take care of it next." Claude looked at the silver flame that had already docked, and insisted on standing up. "Next, we have to negotiate with Teacher Abel. Caden, go find the vampire Hera." Caden hurried to the cabin and left here as if running away, not wanting to appear in the eyes of the 2 heretics. When entering the cabin, Caden looked back and saw the Scorpio wizard standing in front of the level 5 witchcraft Nantian Juju. God, does this wizard have no sense of boundaries? Even if you kill the director of the county judgment office, do you still have ideas about the level 5 witchcraft of the county judgment office? Rudolph stood in front of the giant prince. A corner of the deck was broken. The giant prince was already stuck in the deck and would soon fall to the next floor. He really wanted to touch the Nantian Juju again, but he tried several times, but he didn't dare to raise his hand. He was afraid of hearing the whispers of his loved ones again, he missed them so much. After hesitating for a long time, Rudolph sighed, "Forget it, let himself be an ostrich burying his head in the sand, let himself be a coward, and admit that he did not dare to hear those whispers again. I hope you have a good life there, I will work hard here, and I will have a good life. I miss you as much as you miss me." Rudolph raised his hand again, wiped away the tears in his eyes, and mustered up the courage to face the different world he had traveled through again. He is now a level 4 wizard and still has 2 zodiac signs to learn. After you have learned all 12 constellation witchcraft languages, you can start studying how to become a level 5 wizard, the first qualitative change on the road to being a wizard, the Southern Heaven Wizard. The Wizard of the Southern Sky is a wizard who takes the 47 constellations of the southern sky as a guide and accommodates the characteristics of a certain constellation in the southern sky. This giant throne was left by a southern wizard. This southern wizard contained the characteristics of the southern constellation giant throne. The giant lord's throne has the property of resurrecting the dead and rejuvenating one's youth. The giant wizard of Nantian is also the most popular wizard among wizards. I don't know if this wizard died of old age and the witchcraft was collected by the judgment office. While still alive, he was hunted by witch hunters and made into witchcraft. Rudolph looked at the southern sky. The southern star field was a star field that could only be seen completely in the southern hemisphere. The city of Fabreau is located in the northern hemisphere, where only a few southern constellations can be seen at certain times. Sooner or later I have to go to the southern hemisphere, and I don't know which southern constellation belongs to Rudolph. Rudolph did not covet this witchcraft. The silver flame was so close that he could not take away the witchcraft now. Moreover, he did not dare to listen to the whispers of his close relatives. There was a sudden vibration from the airship, causing Rudolph to withdraw his gaze from the southern sky. The airship of the judicial office was overwhelmed and finally landed. The silver flame also hovered above them, and many people got off the silver flame. Today's update is done first. It may not be updated tomorrow. Try your best. If not, it will be updated the day after tomorrow. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 299. Abel walked onto the airship of the county judicial office with a dark face, followed by Colonel Guyton and heavily armed Constitutional Army soldiers. There are rocket launchers, light machine guns, and several alchemists holding large bundles of copper wire, which are the materials for the alchemy array. Once Colonel Guyton gives the order, the alchemist officers will quickly arrange the alchemy array. Abel's first glance was at Quinn's head on the ground. For a moment, Abel's eyes turned black and his head shook back and forth uncontrollably. Quinn is dead? After being in a trance, Abel turned his head and looked at his good student again. Claude was still standing there relaxedly, not thinking there was anything wrong with what he was doing. Teacher, speaker, and director of the county judgment office, Quinn, colluded with the evil priest to carry out the crazy evil sacrifice in Fabreau City, causing a tragic disaster to Fabreau City. The situation is urgent. As the deputy speaker, I have already killed him on the spot. Guyton was stunned for a moment after hearing this. He felt that the military cap made his head itchy. So he was going to kill him. Abel's face turned blue and purple, and he suddenly pointed at Rudolph not far away. Claude. What did you do? Do you know what you did? You and a wizard murdered the director of the county judicial office. Just after the battle, Rudolph had asked Vanya to help Ivan. The battle there also worried him, so now he is the only heretic on the airship. Rudolph looked innocent and did not argue, just waiting for the master and apprentice to make the final decision. Claude didn't take it seriously. The Rodolfo you are pointing to is an outstanding citizen of Fabreau City, and you personally awarded him the award. Teacher, you and I both know what Quint and Quinn did. Compared with Quinn, Rodolfo is from Fabreau City and the one who really cares about this place. Teacher, listen carefully to the sounds around you. Do you hear the crying in the distance and near? They were used as sacrifices by the evil gods, and they were painfully controlled by the evil gods. They cut off their fingers or other limbs unconsciously, and their blood was collected as samples by the vampires. What did the people of Dordo do wrong? Are they going to suffer this disaster? Teacher, do you still remember what you taught me before I went to Lehman Town to be the police chief? The police sergeant is here to keep everyone safe. The alchemist loves money, cherishes it even more, and must be worthy of every penny of tax collected. Teacher, for so many years in Lehman Town and the city police station, I have never forgotten your teachings. I think as long as a normal person sees the current tragic situation in Dordo district, he will not stand idly by. At this moment, Caden walked out of the cabin with the vampire Hera. Claude continued. Teacher, it's not too late, there is still a chance to make amends. Quinn also wants to use the blood samples collected tonight to create blood servants, which he has not yet completed. We have time to prevent people in Dordo district from becoming blood servants. Then launch an attack on the evil god priest. The Constitutional Army is here to eliminate the evil god priest. Fabreau City is miserable enough. We should at least keep the Dordo district. Claude raised his hand, and several iron thorns appeared in front of his palm, pointing at Hera. Hera looked at the alchemist standing in front of her, at the iron thorns that revealed a dangerous aura, and at them treating her as a heretic who could be executed at any time, feeling extremely humiliated in her heart. The family was destroyed and Rievno was exposed to death. Now, she can only wait for the treatment of these alchemists. Eliminate the high-level vampires and destroy the blood samples, Claude said, Teacher. We are responsible for the people in Dordo district. Claude's high-pitched voice floated on the airship. Rudolph felt that everything was similar to their plan. Claude was truly promoted to a level 4 alchemist and became a very important person in the Alchemy Council. He had the power to negotiate with other people in the Alchemy Council. Then under Claude's request and leadership, he destroyed those people's extreme plans. At this time, Claude argued hard and everything was moving in the right direction. Until a certain moment, the atmosphere on the airship suddenly turned cold, so cold that Claude didn't say anything more. Because an airship is approaching here, and the words Vichy County Alchemy Council are written on the side of the airship. Abel's face was livid, and he kept thinking in his mind. The deputy speaker of the county council, Abade, left Fabreau City after attending Quint's funeral, but came to Fabreau City again before the full moon of this month. This shows that the county council attaches great importance to the Ruhr mining area. He personally came to Fabreau City with only one purpose, to ensure that there was no longer a shortage of miners in the Ruhr mining area and to ensure that everything went according to plan. Abel's eyes were downcast. What should he do tonight? His own student personally killed the director of the county judiciary. This was far beyond the limit of what he could protect. Abel suddenly sighed and walked towards Claude, his expression full of complexity. Claude was confused for a moment and couldn't guess what Abel's attitude was now. As he patted Claude on the shoulder, Abel's eyes fell on the county council airship, which was getting closer and closer. As Abel's arm was raised, his watch was revealed. Abel, like Claude, is also an electromagnetic alchemist. In the silence, Claude suddenly lowered his head. 3 pieces of watch strap metal suddenly shot diagonally downward, piercing Claude's abdomen. Claude's expression changed drastically. He quickly looked up at Rudolph, and said softly, "Escape." Rudolph looked at all this in astonishment and in disbelief. He was at the side of the ship, making preparations. However, the moment he turned over and left, he saw the disappointment in Claude's eyes. Claude is a casual person, but he has his own persistence. At this moment, his teacher took action against him, proving that his persistence may be just a joke. Abel's voice rang in Claude's ear. "Claude, you are a fool, you don't know what the Ruhr mining area means to Vichy County." Abel wanted to say something else, but he saw Claude's eyes moist. He suddenly remembered how long he and Claude had known each other. It seemed to be exactly 20 years. 20 years. 20 years ago, Claude's father brought teenage Claude to Abel's office. At that time, Abel was just an ordinary lecturer at the Alchemy Academy. For 20 years, Claude has been Abel's most staunch supporter. Claude's father left early, and every time Claude went to Abel's house, he would go to find food casually as if he was going back to his own home. Abel's wife liked Claude so much. I don't know when, Claude has regarded Abel as a father. What puzzled Claude was that after handling the Ruhr mining area, Abel seemed to have changed. Claude looked at Abel, he raised his hand, and there was an iron spike in his palm. Abel's wrist was also spinning with a watch strap metal piece. At such a close distance, the master and apprentice showed the most deadly weapon of the electromagnetic alchemist. At the same time, the eyes of the two met, revealing danger. The iron spike shot out, and the watch strap metal piece also shot out. But the next moment, Abel's heart suddenly tightened. His watch strap metal piece shot at Claude's heart. He thought that Claude's iron spike would also shoot at his heart. However, Claude's iron spike shot at Hera. Hera's heart was pierced by several iron spikes. The powerful heart of the vampires made Hera bleed profusely and her heart burst. Until his death, Claude was still trying to stop the people in the Dordo district from being turned into blood slaves. Abel's waist was bent uncontrollably, and Claude's heart also broke, and blood just sprayed on Abel's face as he bent over. The blood covered Abel's tears, and he reached out and pressed Claude's heart, trying to stop Claude's heart from spraying blood. Claude's last whisper rang in his ears. "Teacher, give the people in the Dordo district a way to live." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 300. The iron spikes stained with Claude's blood were all suspended in the air. The airship of the Trial Bureau was instantly covered with black iron rain. The rocket launchers, guns, and copper wires of the alchemy array in the hands of the Constitutional Army soldiers were all destroyed by the iron spikes. The iron spikes were nailed into the deck and the skin of the airship, but no one was hurt. There were many iron spikes nailed around Colonel Gayton's feet. Gayton understood Claude's intention. The crazy attack of the Level 4 alchemist before his death could have killed many people on the airship, but he didn't. He only killed the vampire Hera. This attack only destroyed the soldiers' weapons, which was to buy time for the escaping wizard. In the corner of the airship, a bat flew away in the chaos, and it saw everything. Rudolph, who was supposed to continue to escape in the distance, was stunned. He couldn't help but look back at the airship of the Trial Bureau. Claude, dead. I don't know if it was the heartbeat earplugs that activated randomly, but Rudolph's heart stopped beating. His breathing also stopped. I don't know how many seconds passed, but Rudolph took a second breath, turned his head, and ran back desperately. The air that suddenly poured into his lungs made Rudolph cough violently, even coughed out tears. The white wolf was easy to find. The white wolf was now in the state of a magic wolf, which was larger than an ordinary werewolf. The Level 4 druid had been torn apart by the white wolf and became a corpse. Abigail fell in the corner of the wall. Her abdomen was attacked by the vampire Vanya who had just appeared, and a hole was opened. Her charm had no effect on a puppet like Vanya. At this time, the white wolf was fighting with Cooper's army of corpses. Because of Cooper's existence, the white wolf could not let go. Abigail covered the wound on her abdomen and carefully guarded against the next sneak attack from the vampire Vanya. The wall behind her suddenly became uneven. A person passed through the wall and appeared beside Abigail. Abigail turned her head and thought she would see the vampire Vanya, but she saw the Scorpio wizard Rudolph. Without giving Abigail a chance to react, the earth magic passed through the wall, and Rudolph kicked Abigail in the face. Just a moment ago, even when danger came, Abigail's eyes were full of charm. But for some reason, charm has little effect on wizards. Silver Snake is a master at playing with people's hearts. The pleasure brought by depravity is so addictive. This is the key to Silver Snake's ability to charm apostles of the same level. No one can refuse to indulge, no one can refuse to enjoy. The essence of charm lies in the pleasure of indulgence. Sometimes it is not how difficult it is to resist the power of charm, but the nature of a man's indulgence in sensuality that is difficult to suppress. However, Abigail did not find a trace of indulgence in the heart of Wizard Rudolph at this time, only deep grief. At the same time, Vanya's arm also appeared and strangled Abigail's throat. Abigail's physique was not strong, and she was subdued in an instant. Rudolph's kick directly disfigured Abigail, and her nose was kicked down. He then followed up with a punch and smashed Abigail's head against the wall. In the star map, the 6 stars in the Cancer star field began to shine. Cancer, which language devour, violently activated at this moment. The huge star power rushed directly into Abigail's head, searching for Abigail's soul. Abigail still wanted to resist, but Rudolph's words made her trance. Quint is resurrected, but he doesn't allow you, a dirty woman, to step on the airship. This was what she could expect. Quint's father hated her, but the next sentence made Abigail unbelievable. Quint is dead. We killed him. Another punch hit her head, and Rudolph even heard the sound of bone fracture. Impotent mania engulfed Rudolph. He frantically launched star power and broke through Abigail's fragile defense. A beam of light that only Rudolph and Abigail could see descended from the star field of Cancer. A crab appeared in the starlight, waving a pair of huge crab claws and clamping Abigail's head. After a brief resistance, it seemed that something broke and the translucent crab claws entered her head. The next moment, Abigail's soul was clamped out by the crab claws. Abigail's soul was still resisting. The soul light ball flickered, but in front of the crab's crab claws, it had no effect at all. The witch language of cancer devouring was so unreasonable. A vortex appeared in the abdomen of the crab. It was the beehive star cluster of cancer ready to devour. Abigail's soul was chewed into pieces by the mouthparts of the crab, swallowed into the stomach, and disappeared in the beehive star cluster. Vanya let go of Abigail's throat, and Abigail disappeared in Rudolph's palm. The white wolf not far away removed its claws from Cooper. Compared with the size of the white wolf in the form of a demon wolf, Cooper looked so weak. Cooper was unconscious at this time, and it was unknown how many bones were broken. The white wolf showed mercy to Cooper, but Cooper really wanted to kill the white wolf for Abigail just now. The white wolf didn't control it well in the end and accidentally injured Cooper seriously. There were more than 100 corpses around that were crushed by the white wolf and could no longer be used. After leaving the werewolf form, Yvonne ran towards Rudolph. She was very familiar with Rudolph and she felt that Rudolph's condition was very abnormal. Rudolph finally took a look at the airship of the Judgment Bureau that landed on the ground and said to the others, "Let's go." Vanya's incarnation bat scouts around, carefully avoiding other people. Rudolph helps Cooper, who is in a coma and dying, to walk to the suburbs. If you encounter a place that cannot be avoided, let Abigail come out. When the people from the Judgment Bureau saw Abigail, they let her go without saying anything. If she wanted to say something, Abigail would let her go after a look. This kind of trick should be used less, but Rudolph is not in the mood tonight. Thinking of Claude, Rudolph still feels suffocated. On the airship of the Judgment Bureau, Obed, the deputy speaker of the county council, stepped onto the deck. He saw the airship that was almost in ruins, and there were not many places to land on it. The southern sky giant fell, and there were traces of battle everywhere on the ground. Claude, who fell to the ground and left a large pool of blood, Hera, a vampire who was similar to Claude, and Quinn, who only had his head left. Obed's face was cold, and he looked at Abel with unkindness. Abel took out a handkerchief, carefully wiped the blood off his face, and said very slowly, "Claude, the vice president of the Alchemy Council of Fabreau City, was bewitched by the wizard Rudolph and attacked Quinn, the director of the county judgment office. I have taken action to correct this mistake. For the reputation of the Alchemy Council, Claude's dishonorable behavior should be covered up to a certain extent. The Scorpio wizard Rudolph is the mastermind of all this. I suggest issuing a red warrant for the Scorpio wizard Rudolph and launching an investigation." Abade interrupted Abel and just asked, "The blood clan Hera is dead, can the plan be completed on time?" Abel reacted. The situation was so bad, and Vice President Obed was most concerned about the Ruhr mining area. Abel said, "I will contact other blood clan families as soon as possible and let them take over the creation of blood servant miners." As soon as possible Obed left here with a dark face. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 301. In the South City Cemetery, a funeral was being held in the misty rain. On the black tombstone, a small piece of glass sealed a photo. In the photo, Claude was wearing a suit, not a police uniform. For some special reasons, Police Chief Cadden informed Claude's widow Jessica that Claude was not allowed to be buried in a police uniform. Even though Claude had been a patrolman, a police officer, a sheriff, and a police chief, he could not be buried in a police uniform like other old police officers. Compared with the luxurious funeral of Quinn, the director of the county trial office, in the North City Cemetery, Claude's funeral was so simple. There were several crying women in front of the tombstone, all dressed in black with white flowers on their chests. Jennifer ignored Viscount Savin's warning and did not attend Quinn's funeral in the North City Cemetery, but came to the South City to accompany her mother to Claude's funeral. Looking at Mrs. Leslie sobbing in front of her, Jennifer was also sad. When Claude was in Lehmantown, he took good care of them. Without Claude's care, she could not resist her grandfather's plundering when she just became a knight, and perhaps her knighthood would be taken away. Mrs. Jessica did not cry, because her tears had dried up. At this time, she just stood in front of the tombstone with a dull face. Yanilla stood behind Mrs. Jessica. To be honest, Yanilla did not like Claude very much, and Claude did not want to be Yanilla's stepfather. Recalling Claude at this time, Yanilla suddenly realized that this man had become the support of their family without knowing when. Kelida came as Claude's subordinate, and she came with a few brave police officers. Their days in the police station will not be easy in the future, but they don't care about it anymore after knowing a little bit of the truth. The raindrops lingered and fell on the tombstone, leaving small drops of water. At the end of the cemetery, in the two-story building of the gravekeeper, someone looked at Claude, who was buried in the distance through the window. It was inconvenient for them to go out, so they could only hide here. Standing in the window on the second floor was the red wanted criminal of the Judgment Bureau. Because Vanya left early to support Ivan when Quinn was killed, Rudolph, who stayed on the airship, took all the blame and became more popular than the vampire Vanya. As a reward, Rudolph received 2 titles. The first title was Fabro Demon. In the Fabro Daily, it was because of the wizard Rudolph's help that the trial bureau and the police department failed to defeat the conspiracy of the evil god priest. Fabro Demon played a huge role in the sacrificial night and was one of the creators of the disaster in the Dordo district. This achievement represents the crazy disaster he caused to Fabro City. There are very few heretics who unlock this achievement. Only those who almost destroyed a city can get such a title. The second title made a group of alchemists even more afraid, Rudolph the Furnace. Let's take a look at the list of alchemists who died at the hands of Wizard Rudolph. Level 4 Alchemist Fabro City Council President Quint, Level 4 Alchemist County Judgment Director Quinn, Level 4 Alchemist Fabro City Vice Council President Claude. This is not a wizard, this is an alchemist furnace, killing 3 Level 4 alchemists in a row. These news are so horrifying. For alchemists, it is like a blast furnace that melts metal. Rudolph the Furnace is the most terrible evaluation given by alchemists. It has been a long time since so many Level 4 alchemists died in Vichy County in a short period of time, and it has been a long time since such a rampant wizard appeared. Rudolph the Furnace. Rudolph finally has his own exclusive title like Bloody Salem at that time. At this time, Rudolph the Furnace, who had killed Vice Council President Claude in disgrace in the newspaper, was attending Claude's funeral from a distance behind the window. Rudolph's mind was empty, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Ivan and Cooper stayed on the first floor, also looking in the direction of Claude. The two of them stayed on the first floor, and no one came up to disturb Rudolph. Ivan had their luggage behind her, and the Inquisition was looking for Rudolph like crazy throughout the city of Fabro. They decided to flee Fabro first, but Rudolph insisted on attending Claude's funeral before leaving. Cooper was promoted to a level 4 zombie by mistake on the night of the sacrifice. Fortunately, his opponent was Yvonne, and Yvonne did not kill him, but she had to do her best to deal with him. The knight's body, the father of Viscount Savin, was exposed that night, and Cooper was also on the wanted list of the Inquisition. Cooper was responsible for the collection of Claude's body, ensuring that Claude's apostle power had dissipated, and neither wizards nor zombies could use it. They could no longer stay in Fabro, and the three of them prepared to avoid the limelight and leave after the funeral. The people in front of Claude's tombstone were reluctant to leave for a long time. I don't know how long it took, but many figures suddenly appeared outside the cemetery. Those people lined up quietly and walked towards the cemetery. In the window on the second floor, Rudolph's body suddenly shook. He recognized those people, all of whom were from Lehman Town. Mr. Tiz, who had extracted Rudolph's wisdom teeth, Bath, the owner of the bath house, Papo, the owner of the tavern, Butcher, and a group of other druids from Lehman Town, Mrs. Betsy, Mrs. Fanny, Mrs. Mary. Hundreds of people came to the cemetery. There were not enough tomb passages, so they borrowed the space between other tombs. In front of Claude's tomb, there were many people standing in the dark. They were all dressed in black, holding a bunch of white flowers in their hands, quietly waiting to be placed in front of Claude's tomb. As conspicuous as the white flowers in their hands were the white bandages on their bodies. They also had wounds on their bodies, some bandaged their fingers, some bandaged their arms, some bandaged their eyes, some bandaged their ears. These were all wounds left by themselves during the night of the sacrifice. Yvonne looked at so many people outside and couldn't help crying anymore. She covered her face with her hands and started crying. Cooper lost the ability to cry, and his eyes were red at this moment. He and Claude didn't have many intersections, but he heard many people say that Claude was a good man. Among those waiting to offer flowers, there were several special people, and the husbands of several ladies such as Mrs. Betsy also came to the cemetery. Daughters here also have the right to inherit property, which makes women's status very high, and with it comes the prevailing lover culture. The appearance of several husbands is also normal in the eyes of others. What do you think of our relationship with Claude? Well, roommates who have never met each other. I think this term is more accurate. Indeed, you are still capable, Betsy. Claude is good in every way, but he is a little careless. He always leaves something in my bedroom, sometimes a police badge, sometimes a baton. We haven't encountered what you are talking about. Have you never encountered such a situation? Really? Is it possible that your wife deliberately showed it to you? Does she want to divorce you? Hiss, now that you put it that way, it really seems like it. This is too much. Is it appropriate to leave now? Claude is dead. Let's lay flowers before leaving. Cheers to our roommate. Cheers to our roommate.